Imagine trying to keep milk fresh, meat safe, and vegetables crisp through a long, hot summer without electricity, or the comforting hum of a refrigerator in your kitchen. For most of human history, this was not a rare challenge or an unusual hardship. It was simply an everyday aspect of life. People had to constantly be aware of the temperature, the season, and how they stored their food to prevent it from spoiling. Long before electric refrigeration became widespread in the mid-20th century, individuals and families relied on a combination of natural resources, thoughtful architecture, careful seasonal planning, and hands-on techniques to ensure their food stayed cool and safe to eat. In Canada, with its particularly harsh winters, short but sometimes sweltering summers, and diverse geography, these methods were not only practical but absolutely essential for survival. Here are 10 historically documented and proven ways that people kept food cool before the advent of modern refrigerators, each deeply rooted in tradition, science, and day-to-day life. Long before modern appliances and sophisticated temperature control, the most reliable form of cooling food was underground storage. Root cellars, dug partially or entirely into the earth, were often constructed beneath homes, barns, or gently sloping hillsides. The surrounding soil acted as a natural insulator, maintaining a cool and remarkably stable temperature year-round. This consistent environment allowed perishable foods to remain far longer than if they had been left exposed to fluctuating outdoor temperatures. In Canada, settlers made extensive use of root cellars, storing vegetables such as potatoes, carrots, turnips, and beets in wooden bins layered with sand or straw, which further helped to preserve them. Apples and other fruits were often wrapped individually and placed carefully on shelves to prevent contact and the spread of rot. The steady coolness of these cellars slowed bacterial growth and kept food from freezing in the dead of winter, making them one of the most effective and widely used pre-industrial food storage systems. These cellars were meticulously maintained and organized, reflecting a deep understanding of both the properties of different foods and the natural insulation provided by the earth. Ice harvesting was another transformative practice that allowed northern communities to preserve food long into the warmer months. During the winter, large blocks of ice were cut from frozen lakes, rivers, and other water bodies using saws, chisels, and other hand tools. In Canada, this activity was a major seasonal undertaking, particularly common in regions such as Ontario and Quebec. Once cut, the ice blocks were transported carefully to ice houses, which were thick-walled wooden or stone structures designed specifically to slow the melting process. The ice was often packed in sawdust or straw, which provided further insulation. These ice houses were able to preserve ice well into the summer, allowing households and businesses to use it for cooling food, preserving fresh meat, and later supplying household ice boxes. Ice harvesting required significant planning, manpower, and skill, but it became an integral part of community life, with many towns organizing this labor collectively each winter. Before the widespread use of electric refrigerators, many Canadian homes relied on ice boxes to keep food cool. These insulated wooden cabinets, often lined with metal, were designed to hold a block of ice in a compartment at the top. Cold air naturally sank from the ice compartment, lowering the temperature of the sections below where food was stored. Families would replace the ice regularly, often delivered by an iceman who made daily or weekly rounds. Meltwater drained into a pan at the bottom of the icebox, which had to be emptied frequently to prevent overflow and maintain hygiene. While the temperature inside an icebox was not as consistent or precisely controlled as in modern refrigerators, it significantly slowed spoilage and allowed families to safely store dairy, leftovers, and fresh meat for several days. Iceboxes became a cornerstone of household management, and families developed routines and practices around their care and maintenance. In rural areas, cold water was one of the most accessible and powerful tools for cooling food. Milk cans, butter crocks, and sealed containers of various foods were often submerged in wells, natural springs, or flowing streams to keep their contents cool. In many parts of Canada, specialized spring houses were constructed directly over natural springs to take advantage of their continuously low temperatures. These spring houses allowed households to store dairy products, fresh eggs, and other perishable items at a consistently cool temperature throughout the year. The groundwater maintained a temperature that was remarkably stable and naturally cold, which helped prevent the growth of harmful bacteria. Salt also played a crucial dual role in food preservation and cooling. While its primary use was to cure meat and fish, salting also reduced the moisture content of food, making it less hospitable to bacteria and mold. In coastal regions of Canada, particularly in the maritime provinces, salted cod and other fish formed a staple of the diet. Salted meat was frequently stored in cool cellars or in barrels placed in shaded areas, where the combination of low temperatures and reduced moisture helped preserve it for extended periods.
Although salt did not provide direct cooling, it worked synergistically with cool storage environments to dramatically extend the shelf life of a wide variety of foods, making it a vital component of historical food preservation strategies.
Smokehouses were another fundamental structure in early Canadian food culture. Smoking meat and fish involved exposing food to cool or warm smoke over extended periods, which reduced moisture content and introduced antimicrobial compounds from the smoke itself. Cold smoking, in particular, took place at low temperatures and helped preserve food without actually cooking it. Once smoked, foods were stored in cool cellars or pantries to maintain their quality. The combination of smoke exposure, reduced moisture, and cold storage allowed meat and fish to remain edible for months, ensuring that families had access to protein-rich foods even when fresh supplies were limited. Evaporative cooling was also employed during warmer months, especially when ice was scarce or unavailable. Porous clay pots, damp cloths, or wooden boxes wrapped in wet fabric were placed in shaded and breezy areas. As water evaporated from the surfaces of these containers, heat was drawn away from the food inside, lowering its temperature slightly. While this method was more effective in dry climates, it was still used in parts of Canada during hot spells to keep butter, milk, and other perishables cooler than the surrounding air. This technique, relying on the basic principles of evaporation, was simple yet effective and required only minimal materials. Seasonal eating was another critical strategy for food preservation. Canadians planned their diets around what could be naturally kept cool or safely stored at different times of the year. Fresh meat was typically eaten in winter or preserved immediately through salting, smoking, or canning. During the summer, diets shifted toward fresh vegetables, berries, and foods that spoiled quickly but could be consumed the same day. Techniques such as canning, pickling, and drying were paired with cool storage methods to reduce dependence on fresh food during warmer months. Pantries were also designed with cooling in mind. In older homes, pantries were often oriented to the north, with thick walls, small windows, and good airflow. These spaces remained cooler than the rest of the house and were used to store bread, cheese, preserves, and cooked foods meant to last several days. In urban Canadian homes, pantries functioned as buffers between the kitchen, which could become warm from cooking, and the outdoor environment, protecting stored food from heat and sunlight. Finally, community systems played a vital role in keeping food cool. Ice harvesting, smokehouses, and communal cellars were often shared resources, allowing entire neighborhoods to benefit from organized preservation methods. Not every family needed to maintain its own ice house or smokehouse, and shared facilities reduced waste, ensured access to preserved foods, and reinforced social cooperation. Before the invention of refrigerators, keeping food cool required careful knowledge, planning, and collaboration with nature, rather than attempting to control it artificially. These methods were not primitive stopgaps, but highly refined systems developed over generations, many of which worked remarkably well in practice. The refrigerator did not invent food safety or preservation. It merely replaced a deep, practical understanding of temperature, seasonal cycles, and environmental management with a mechanical solution. Through thoughtful use of natural resources, architecture, community cooperation, and everyday diligence, people were able to maintain safe and nutritious foods even in the absence of modern technology, demonstrating remarkable ingenuity and adaptability over centuries.